A strike continuing today inside Alabama prisons.
Dozens of inmates have died in Alabama prisons this year. The Justice Department says Alabama's prison conditions violate the Constitution's ban on cruel and unusual punishment.
See, these are the people that they should be letting go.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. Thank you so much for clicking on it. This is probably one of the most important videos I have made all year long. Today, I'm going to be exposing Alabama's prison system, and not just their prison system and their mistreatment and abuse of inmates, but also their failure at parole and their mismanagement of COVID relief funds, their privatized prison system and slave labor, and a statewide inmate strike. Whew, we have a lot to cover today. I very rarely ask you guys to share my videos, but this video needs to be shared. Please share this video anywhere that you can think of on any social media platform, but please share this video. If you guys are new here, hi, my name is Jess. I'm a person in long-term recovery who has in fact been to prison. Not only have I been to prison myself, I currently have a bachelor's degree in correctional program support services, and I am a board member on a prison reform nonprofit called Freebird Movement. Prison reform is my passion. It's what I care the most about. It is the entire reason why I started sharing my story on the internet. I am unbelievably grateful that so many of you guys have subscribed to the channel and you've entrusted me to make these kinds of videos. I am very aware that my platforms all across the internet are pretty substantial. I also take the responsibility of having these very big platforms really seriously. I'm saying that to say this: I am going to do my absolute best to articulate what is going on in Alabama to the best of my knowledge. Oftentimes I misspeak or I forget to put things in videos, and I just want to let you guys know that I'm doing the best that I can. If I forget something or I leave something out, or you think that there's an important detail that I should have mentioned, please put it in the comment section down below. In the description box, I'm also going to leave resources for you guys to do your own research on what's going on in Alabama, a petition that you guys can sign, people that you can write to beg them to change their ways. It's a private prison system, so we're gonna see what we can do. But without further ado, let's kick this thing off. So there are currently 158 private prisons in the United States. Now, what is a private prison? A private prison is a prison that houses inmates just like any other prison, except for the goal of private prisons is to turn a profit. The private prison system is operated by private companies that have government contracts. So why do we have 158 private prisons that are specifically designed to turn a profit in America? Crazy. It is because of overcrowding.
This is a dormitory. We stupid crowded, we super crowded.
So to solve overcrowding, the government thought, you know what we should do? We should outsource. So here comes along these private companies and they're like, hey, I see a demand. You really need facilities. And the government's like, yeah, we do. The private corporations are like, I can fill that need for you. Your inmates are gonna be in our facilities, so they're not gonna be all over the street, thus meeting your demand. And we have our own best interest at heart, which is turning a profit. Now, when the goal of a prison is profits, who do you think suffers? With the private prison system, they're getting paid on both sides. The government is giving them money with their government contracts. Then they are earning money on inmate labor to make, like, let's just say office chairs, license plates, uniforms. So they're getting paid by billion-dollar corporations. Inmates are paid pennies on the dollar to make a $700 office chair that we can sell on, like, Shopify. Yay! What's even more gross is inmates want to work. Inmates want to work. They want to earn money. They want to have job training. So how does this tie into Alabama? Well, Alabama has a lot of private prisons, and their private prison practices, say that 3 times fast. Also, I'm really sorry. I have a head cold. I'm sure you can hear it. The inmates suffer when they have to work all day long to make $12 a month or whatever ridiculous pay rate it is. Actually, I should look it up first. I shouldn't just say some random number. 1 second. So typically inmates get paid anywhere from 14 cents to $2 an hour, but some states like Arkansas, they don't even have to pay their inmates anything. That's right. I got paid $0 for working in laundry 12 hours a day. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't care that much because it's not like I was making office chairs or license plates on a factory line for billion-dollar companies. You know what I mean? It was a prison compound job and it was required to run the prison. You have to do the laundry, you have to work in kitchen or medical or wherever to make the prison run. We need inmates in Sallyport. Like, who do you think is mopping the hallways, right? So inmates run the facility. Just in case you're wondering how it's legal for billion-dollar companies to pay inmates 16 cents an hour to make office chairs and shit, it's because of our 13th Amendment. Our 13th Amendment literally says that slavery is illegal. Yay, except for when they are an inmate. Let me just read to you the 13th Amendment. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction, which says slavery is not allowed. But if they're an inmate, they can be a slave. As long as they've been convicted of a crime, we can exploit them as much as we want and pay them as little as we want, sometimes no money at all. We have two problems here. That amendment sucks. Capitalism that puts profits above people. Now, I did mention that Alabama and their private prison systems get paid twice, right? They get paid by government funding, and they also get paid on all of the inmate labor and everything that they make. Now let's go to Castillo Vaughn. And I have to remind you guys that the image that I'm about to share is very, very bad, and it's graphic in nature. But Castillo Vaughn went viral a few weeks ago, and essentially, his medical condition is that they removed a lot of his large intestine because he was starving. I was told that Castillo Vaughn was taken to the infirmary and he is getting medical help, but that is not confirmed. That is just something that I saw in the comment sections of TikTok, so I can't confirm that. No one has come forward and let me know that that is a fact, but that is just what I heard, so I'm really, really hoping that that is real and he is getting the help that he needs. But Castillo is not the only person that has gone viral for his physical well-being and his health that is rapidly declining. There have been other inmates that have come forward on video from an Alabama prison that have said, we're starving, we're hungry, my health is deteriorating, I'm not okay, this is not okay. They're starving us.
This is an emergency video on behalf of Shannon Hopkins, who thank you to all the emails and stuff that was sent to the nurses and the commissioner's office and so forth. He was seen. He made it up to the front and was seen. The tragedy behind this here, the nurse practitioner, Mrs. I'm going to spell her name out so that the public can see. W-A-U-G-H cursed him out verbally and refused to see him, and also stated that he did not have any money on his funds account as her reasons for turning him around, did not give him any medication, sent him totally around, turned him around, did not view him. They did receive a call from Montgomery. He was called over the nurse practitioner, W-A-U-G-H. And this same nurse practitioner has a habit of cursing and verbally abusing inmates who have medical needs or need medical assistance, did not see him. Nurse coordinator Kelly Rice, which is the coordinator at State also prison, went along with it, and she is the nurse that's over disciplinary. She's supposed to address disciplinary action. She thought that that the nurse actions were okay and fine. Nurse Parker and Nurse Long are also abusive nurses at State Correctional Facility. You have these 4 nurses who, in my opinion, I think are responsible for the 6 deaths that occurred, not through drug overdose or anything of that nature. It was 6 deaths through medical neglect. 6 inmates died through cancer and other mistreatments or lack of treatments dealing with inmates at State Correctional Facility. This is a serious matter. This man is still in pain. This man still needs help. Please get we need more emails, and we need now that you have the nurse's name, we need these nurses dealt with, addressed immediately. And that's about all I can say, man. This is crazy.
Now, I've seen different reports on the timeline of this, but from all accounts, from what I can see right now, is that after inmates started to go on strike because of the living conditions that they're enduring, after they went on strike, they were then punished by not having visits and having their meals cut from 3 to 2. And the state's response to that is, well, because of our, shortage of labor, because of the strike, we don't have enough people to feed them 3 times a day. But you get paid on both ends. You have plenty of money to feed these inmates because you are turning ridiculous amounts of profits. And yet you're serving them food like this. 30% of their calories were taken out. If they're cutting their food and they're restricting visitation and cutting visitation out, then they're probably restricting other things like phone calls in commissary. I've made a lot of videos in the past talking about how you need money in prison to survive. I mean that. Having to choke down food that looks like this and starving all the time is not okay. The punishment has to fit the crime. There are so many human rights violations when talking about private prisons, but starving them to the point where they have to get their large intestines removed is just incomprehensible. And people can yell all day long like, you just shouldn't have broken the law. Okay, great, but the punishment for stealing, for theft, for drugs, it's not murder. They are failing on all sides, and every single time I go to YouTube, the views on these videos are like 200 views. 400 views. Like, people are not watching these videos, and that just helps them get away with it. If we are not talking about it, if they silence the inmates and they continue to exploit and starve the inmates and then no one's talking about it, then guess what? They get a pass, which is what they have done for decades. They are hoping that people are gonna be like, you just shouldn't have broken the law. Oh, shouldn't have been an inmate. They're hoping that you react that way, because if we're all bickering back and forth with, well, you just shouldn't have gone to prison, you shouldn't have broken the law, it's their own fault. If we're fighting and we don't come together, nothing changes. Everyone knows. The government knows what they're doing. The state of Alabama knows what they're doing. They know that they're starving these people, they're hurting these people, their health is deteriorating, and they refuse to do anything about it. Their response to the strike was to starve them and cut off their visitation. So thousands of inmates went on strike because of these conditions.
This all the way around, man.
The governor called the inmate demands unreasonable, and some of them are far-reaching. Some of them are very difficult to do. It's not something that a governor would have the power to do. A governor has power to like pardon people. They can do a lot of shit. I would probably want to be a governor, but they don't have the power to overturn legislation and write new laws, pass bills. Like, there's a whole process for that, right? So some of the things that the inmates are asking for are a bit beyond her reach. So let's just go over the demands together. The first one is very reasonable. It says, establish mandatory parole criteria to guarantee parole to all eligible who meet that criteria. I'm sorry, is that not already a thing? Apparently not. That would be like top of the list, because where there is prison, there should probably be a parole system that can accommodate the people leaving, and like there has to be criteria. Like what? How is that not a thing? The second one, again, very difficult. A governor can't do this by herself, but it's repeal Alabama's Habitual Felony Offender Act, which requires stricter punishment for those with prior felony convictions, among other mandates. That is similar to the 3-strike law, although not as severe. If you're a habitual offender, you're gonna be serving a lot more time. So I get it. I like where their head is at with that, but again, that's not something that you could probably get done with a protest or a strike, especially when you're in prison. A lot of people are gonna have to come together for that. The third one is eliminate life without parole sentences. That will never happen. That will never happen. There's a reason for life without parole. That reason is grotesque crimes. The person that has committed these unthinkable crimes of violence and who even knows what, they should probably never get out, right? Like, if you're a dangerous person and you've hurt a lot of people, you probably shouldn't get out of prison, right? Like, life without parole is never going to just go away. Reduce the 30-year minimum for juvenile offenders to no more than 15 before they are eligible for parole. I get that. Juveniles, it's a whole separate thing. But again, I don't think this is just something a governor can just do to end the strike. Create a review board to oversee the Alabama Bureau of Pardons and Paroles. Reasonable. Fix parole, dude. Just fix it. Streamline the review process for medical furlough. So apparently there's no policy for medical furlough, and furloughs are very difficult to get in prison. A furlough is where you leave the facility to get medical care, go to a funeral. Those are like unicorns in the prison system in America. Ensure eligible persons receive good time incentives, time shaved off a sentence earned through good behavior. Again, that is a prison policy that is very easy to accommodate. How is that not a thing? Why is parole so messed up? You're not guaranteeing good time for inmates. How is that not happening? create a statewide conviction integrity unit to investigate possible wrongful convictions. Willie Williams is an inmate that is at the Stanton Correctional Facility. He described conditions as inhumane and filthy, saying that there was mold all over the facility. I'm sorry, what? There's mold? Are you serious? You know how dangerous that can be? He also said there's no compassion, there's no rehabilitation, there's no training, there's just nothing. There's no services that are actually helping these inmates. Their demands are also to improve the living conditions and improve the quality of life for the inmates. And Alabama has failed over and over and over again to even acknowledge what is really happening inside of these prisons. Because if they address the crisis and they say this is what's really going on, guess what? People are going to be mad and they're going to have to take full accountability for violating human rights time and time again. So yeah, a couple of demands, a bit out of reach, but it's not an unreasonable thing to say I don't want mold in my cell, it's making me sick. Don't remove my large intestine because of starvation, and give us some kind of guidelines for parole and good time. Don't deny us medical care because we're dying. Just help us. One man that I was reading about the other day, his name is Luke White. He died in Bibb Correctional Facility, B-I-B-B. He died there. He was just found unresponsive in his cell. What's really sad about that is he didn't need to be there. He really did not need to be there. And the family members, they were like, I don't think he's gonna make it out alive. I don't think he's gonna make it out. Please let him have parole. So Luke robbed a gas station in 2012. Well, in 2016, a judge revoked his probation and sent him back to prison. Do you wanna know why? It's because he failed to go to court and pay the state his fees for probation. Now, I don't know what was going on in his life at the time, but you have to literally pay to be on probation. You have to pay restitution, court costs, and fines. That is very hard to do as a felon. In 2020, his family was so afraid that he wasn't gonna make it out alive. And in 2022, he died. Alabama's parole system is a very huge failure as well, because sometimes the parole board just says no to like everyone. Everyone that goes in front of the parole board, they're like, no parole for you. Nope. You look a little suspicious. I'm just gonna say no. Like, they just grant parole to no one. Why do you think they do that? Well, they do that because the more people that they have in their prison system, the more profits they turn, because they're making shit like desks and chairs that they can sell on Shopify. Their entire system is designed on the principle of get more bodies to come into our facility. You would think if their bottom line is all they cared about, then they would at least feed them, right? Well, food costs money, so they have to cut that out. And that's the real problem with privatized prisons, is that they are so fucking greedy and money hungry that they're like, food costs too much, so starve, okay? Everyone starve. Great. To take it a step further, they also don't train the officers in how to handle like anything, like literally anything, and that is a problem, because now we're creating not only a danger for the inmates, but a danger for the staff, because guess who is going to feel the wrath of an inmate riot or strike? It's the staff members, who are probably overworked, undertrained, underpaid, and exhausted. None of it makes sense, and from all of my research, I don't even think private prisons can be investigated for human rights violations under the contracts that our government give them, and because they're also private. What? Our prison system in this country has so many utter failures, embarrassments, human rights violations, and I can go on and on. Did you know that in 2003, George Bush Sr. wrote a 126-page commission detailing a law that we now call PREA? It's the Prison Rape Elimination Act, because so many people were getting raped in our prison system that he had to sign that into law that you can no longer do that. Let's talk about the $725 million COVID relief fund that Alabama is using to build 2 super prisons.
Alabama, which happens to have the highest death rate from coronavirus in the United States, is planning to use federally provided coronavirus relief funds to construct prisons. Yeah. By the way, Alabama happens to be one of the states that ended unemployment benefits because of COVID earlier than they were supposed to. Because why would they use that money to help people in their state when they could use it to imprison people in their state. Alabama lawmakers began a special session on a $1.3 billion construction plan that would use federal pandemic relief funds to pay part of the cost of building massive new lockups. Governor Kay Ivey has touted the plan to build 3 new prisons and renovate others as a partial solution to the state's long-standing troubles in its prison system.
So why are they using $725 million of COVID relief money to build prisons? Well, that's because Wall Street backed out of building them. You know why? It looks bad. Crazy, right? That Wall Street, the epicenter of let's just make money, like bring your greed here, Jordan Belfort, like, right? They would be like, no, we're good. And I forget the name of the company, I'll put it up on the screen here. They backed out because they're like, you know what? Private prisons they're kind of fucked up, so we're not gonna make money on this one. A lot of the executives in Alabama prison systems are actually using the money that they're supposed to use on feeding the inmates for like cars and shit. And I know that I'm very passionate when it comes to prison reform and things that are going on in our prison systems, but I'm not being dramatic, I'm not exaggerating, I'm not making this up. This is really happening. I know that a lot of the things that I've said in this video, it's hard to digest. It's really hard to look at our system and think, you know what, there actually really isn't any justice because prosecutors just want to win. A judge doesn't want to say I made a mistake like 200 times, and these people are in prison unjustly. People in positions of power in this country oftentimes just want to win and earn money, especially when we are built on capitalism. Now, I'm not talking crap about capitalism. I'm just saying that when you put profits above people, people die. I don't know how any of the people that run the Alabama prison system can fucking sleep at night. There are just some things that you shouldn't make money on, like inmates. And I know a lot of the times people are like, our tax dollars. Listen, we have to pay taxes regardless, okay? That money's coming out regardless. It should make you mad as a taxpayer to think that not only are our tax dollars going to the abuse, mistreatment, and murder of inmates, that same place that is taking your tax dollars is also turning a disgusting profit off the backs of the suffering. And there's no accountability. A lot of the times it's completely swept under the rug for many reasons. You know, one of the reasons is this is really hard to digest. This is really hard to think about. So it's a lot easier to say just don't break the law, but what we're missing here is our entire system is corrupt, it's evil, there is no justice, there's no real consequence for a lot of people in power. So what do we do? What do we do? We write the governor of Alabama, we share videos like this and every other video you could possibly find on Alabama. You vote, protest, and let your voice be heard. We need to end privatized prisons. That should not be a thing in this country. For-profit private prisons need to be abolished immediately. All right, you guys, I'm gonna end today's video here. There are links to everything I mentioned in the description box of this video. As always, I love you guys. Stay safe, stay in recovery, whatever that looks like to you. Please do your own research and educate yourself when it comes to prisons in this country and how horrible they are. And I will see you guys in my next one.